Hello travelers, and welcome to a new video. Today I'm at Auschwitz and BIRKENAU, and I'm going to be visiting both camps today. It is a monumental place to visit. It is a very solemn place to visit, and behind me you see one of the original railroad cars. We're going to show it to you, and that's what they brought the prisoners into the death camps, mostly Jews. And I will tell you much more about the camp as we enter first BIRKENAU, and then we're going to go to Auschwitz. I've just entered the first camp, known as BIRKENAU. There is Auschwitz. There's actually 3 camps in Auschwitz. There was Auschwitz I, there was Auschwitz II, known as BIRKENAU, and there was Auschwitz III, and it is no longer here. But we're able to tour 2 of them. It actually started raining, so you can see we're actually inside the camp now. Those are the guard towers. You have barbed wire here, and these were the barracks where the prisoners would have stayed. So I'm on a self-tour. I have a map, and I'm able to tour the facility alone, which is quite interesting as well, that you can do this. Some areas are not allowed to be in. But I wanted to talk a little bit first about why I'm here. This has to do basically with the Holocaust, which is what happened during World War II when the Germans, the Third Reich, the Nazis, they tried to take over Europe, and they had accomplished most of that goal, and their ultimate goal was to get a supreme race and to exterminate people like the Jews, the Slavs, and the Romas, which were gypsies. So this is the big thing that they were trying to do. They were trying to get a supreme race. Finally, in 1942, they came up with the final solution, and they decided to murder all the Jews, to exterminate them from the earth. And that was their plan, which was an evil, evil plan. Yesterday was the 80th anniversary of Auschwitz being freed. It was a big, big thing all over the world. In fact, they had a big ceremony yesterday here at Auschwitz, and they had world leaders here to talk about the freeing of the camps and the ending of this awful monstrosity. So this is not a place to celebrate. It's an evil place, and just to remember what happened. It's the Holocaust. Many people died, and in fact in these camps over 1 million people died, and mostly Jews, but also Slavs, Polish people, Roma, gypsies, and prisoners, and Soviet. So reading the sign there, this was known as a death barrack, and it was for women that were no longer useful to the Nazis. They could no longer work, and they were set to be exterminated. So basically what they did was they took any people that were unfit, that were handicapped or unfit, or had any issues, and immediately they exterminated them upon arrival. And in the first clip you saw that old train car, and those are the type of cars that they used to bring many people into the camps. That was the quickest way, through the railroad. They found out they could bring tons and tons of people here, either make them work as slave labor or exterminate them. And eventually many people, when they were no longer useful, were also exterminated. And they also performed sick experiments, the Nazis, on women, men, and children. Torture, if you will. So this sign says, on this site stood a wooden barrack where in 1944 then more than 200 Jewish children between the ages of 2 and 16 were kept as prisoners. These children, the majority of them twins, were used for criminal medical experiments by SS doctor Joseph Mengele. I've heard about him. He's the evil doctor, the evil SS doctor. And it started raining. It was supposed to be a nice day, but I guess it's kind of fitting because we're in Poland. It's a tragic area, but it is a place that we need to remember, especially because some people are saying in the West now, you hear online, that the Holocaust never happened, that these things never happened, that it was made up. Well, I can tell you that this is hard proof here, and we're gonna see more as we tour the rest of Birkenau, and then finally the Auschwitz I camp. We have about 2 hours here, and then we're gonna move over to the other camp. We're basically looking at a giant prison, and I did have some information about Birkenau. The functions of Birkenau camp. The Germans began building the camp near the Polish village of Repinka. In German it is Birkenau. It is 3 kilometers from Auschwitz I. In the autumn of 1941, the Polish residents of Brzezinka had previously been expelled. Planned as a camp for Soviet POWs, Birkenau ultimately became the largest center for the extermination of Jews. The first 2 provisional gas chambers began functioning near the camp from the first half of 1942 as part of the Nazi plan for the final solution of the Jewish question. A year later, the Germans put 4 larger gas chambers with crematoria into operation inside the camp. The largest Nazi German concentration camp for prisoners of various nationalities. In the summer of 1944, at the peak of the transports of Jews from Hungary and occupied Poland, there were about 90,000 prisoners in Birkenau, 69,000 Jews, 13,000 Poles, and 8,000 of other ethnic origins. So this was a very, very large camp. They brought people from Hungary, from Poland, from Czech Republic, from Slovakia, all over Europe as well. So it looks like we can go inside one of these buildings. Let's go on inside. I don't know exactly what we're looking at. It almost looks like a place to feed animals. So a lot of people are trying to take cover from the rain. It was raining fairly hard for a bit. It was only supposed to be a 20% chance of rain today, but unfortunately it is Poland, it is January. So there is another one of these buildings we can go inside. Let's take a look. You can see this is where the prisoners would have been housed. Bunk style beds. And I can tell you it's cold in here. It's damp. And I doubt that they had heat for the prisoners. Well, actually they were innocent people, most of them. Just caught up in an evil scheme, an evil era in history. It is one of the worst areas of humanity, and man's inhumanity to one another. Let's hope it never happens again. We need to never forget what happened, because it has a potential of happening again, unfortunately. You can see there are many buildings that have been destroyed that no longer are here. There's quite a few buildings actually. These may have been where they disposed of some of the remains, in fact. There's something here, it looks like it's in French. So some kind of monument there. Interesting that it seems to be in French. There's a guard tower in the distance. Can you imagine during those days you had SS guards here in the towers with guns? Anyone trying to escape would be shot quickly. I'm sure they had dogs in the camp as well. You can imagine SS officers patrolling the camps. You would have been in a very bad situation if you were here. And there are actually a few people that survived the camps, and they were at Auschwitz yesterday. One was a woman, I think she's 94 now, and she was 14 when she was in one of the camps. I believe it was Auschwitz. And there are a few survivors that are left, but most of them were teenagers when they came to either Auschwitz or Birkenau. These are Jews selected by the SS for imminent death in the gas chambers of Crematoria 2 and 3 were herded along this road. It really brings it to life when you see the photos. Those ominous photos. And here we have the train tracks. So right here the carriages would have came. Even had some towers here, it looks like. Rail cars coming, unloading, going into the camp. And many awaiting death upon arrival. This photo is entitled Preparation for the Selection. Photos taken by the SS, 1944. So these are photos they found. They were taken by the Nazis themselves. And that is why we have them.
Do it first. They have to destroy the buildings.
Someone left a flower behind, a rose. I think this might have been the children's block. You can see they've added this for children. Can you just imagine being a child and being taken away from your parents? Maybe they were murdered and you were sent to live in a place like this. You would have been scared, frightened, and it's just inhumane the way they treated these children. Some more roses have been laid. Looks like they may have had to sleep on top as well, because you can see there was a little ladder for the children to climb up, it looks like. What I read just shook me to the bone. If I was anywhere else, I would think that there was some mistake, but no. It says in this barracks, SS doctors and nurses murdered newborn babies and their mothers by phenol injections. These Nazis were so evil. I hope they deserve a special place in hell for what they did. Murdered newborn babies and their mothers by injecting them in this barracks here. Pure evil. Pure evil, my friends. We're entering Auschwitz, but you have to go through this series of large concrete walls before you enter, and you have to go through security as well, because there's people behind me. So this is very different than Birkenau camp. And on the speaker there's a man saying the names of everyone that lost their lives. or that they know of. I don't know if you can hear them in the background. There are some pictures this way, and the sun has come out. This is the liberation of Auschwitz, January 27, 1945. These are people that died that didn't make it when the camp was liberated. And the camp was actually liberated by Russians. It wasn't liberated by Americans. The Russians were pushing forward, and the Germans actually made a lot of the prisoners, or most of them, leave the camp and do a death march, and many perished. Around 9,000 perished during the death march, and they were trying to cover up the evidence. By order of Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler in 1940, the SS relinquished the former Polish army garrison in Auschwitz. It had been taken over by the German army after Poland defeat in 1939. The concentration camp the SS set up here was later called Auschwitz. So that's how it started. So I want to stress that even though these camps are located in Poland, they had nothing to do with the Poles. These were German camps, and they were built under German rule. Here's the famous entrance to Auschwitz. This is Arbeit macht frei. It's my best German, and it means work sets you free. The iconic gate to Auschwitz. It's on many photos. You find it throughout the internet. So we've officially entered Auschwitz, which was the land of no return for many. We must free the German nation of Poles, Russians, Jews, and Gypsies. Otto Thierek, Minister of Justice of the Third Reich. And those are the kind of crazy beliefs they had. Jews are a race that must be totally exterminated. Hans Frank, 1944, Governor General in Nazi-occupied Poland. These are Jews arriving from Hungary. These are bags of hair that they found from the victims. That is how many people they murdered. There was that much hair left over. It's absolutely shocking, the stories. Shoes left over. You couldn't tell, but there were so many shoes. There looked like there was 100,000 or more shoes, pair of shoes. It was just unbelievable. The whole wall from almost middle to the bottom were filled, and the length of that room we were in was filled with shoes. 26 March 1942 to mid-August 1942, blocks 1 through 10 served as a women's camp. They were separated from the men's camp by a high wall. Almost 17,000 female prisoners were placed here from Germany and German-occupied countries. Over the course of about 4 months, several thousand women imprisoned in this camp died in the gas chambers, as well as from starvation, disease, catastrophic sanitary conditions, and exhausting labor. In August 1942, the remaining prisoners were transferred to the Auschwitz II BIRKENAU camp, which is what we saw earlier. And to be honest with you, if I didn't know better, I would just feel like this was almost like a little town. It doesn't look as much like a camp or jail as the other camp did. The buildings look fairly nice. If I didn't know better what this was. We can go inside this building as well. So this mangled mess, at first I thought it was wires, but if you look closely, they're glasses. Pairs of glasses from victims. This wing here at least is dedicated to items that were left over, and it is proof undeniable proof of what happened here. And that's what this museum is showing. So you can see the guard tower. So you can see the barbed wire fences as well. And the buildings are numbered. There's photos of prisoners from the camp, what they needed to wear, the uniforms. Shoes. Constant starvation was one of the main factors in the degradation and extermination of prisoners. The daily food ration of each prisoner consisted of approximately 1,500 to 1,700 calories. Most prisoners had to survive on these rations whilst working approximately 11 hours per day. It's honestly horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying, especially to see the pictures. And there were other pictures that I couldn't even show because they were showing children and young men, and they were just so skinny and frail. And the young man looked like he was deformed, and there was a nurse with him taking a photo and kind of smiling. It's just, I cannot understand the mentality. How do you get to there? Here are the bunkhouses. I wonder if that first one was almost like a guard's quarters because it was just one bed. And I assume that most had bunk beds like I showed you. So in this block behind me, it just gets even worse each block. This is where they used to sterilize women against their will. They performed experiments on how to sterilize them. And many suffered and died even. Oh, we have some type of news crew behind me, or documentary crew. So this wall coming up, they used to shoot prisoners, and they were more, they said thousands were shot, but I think they were more people that opposed the Nazi regime, political type prisoners. So they lined them up against this wall and executed them. And you can see that there are wreaths of remembrance. This is possibly where the world leaders had just come a few days ago, because I know that I think we had King Charles here and some other world leaders were here. We are now in the camp detention ward. So basically a prison within a prison here. There's your cell doors. Cell block, can we see inside? Oh yes, we can. So not pleasant places to be. So they said this is one of the first experiments killing prisoners with gas took place in that basement. So that is why it's historically significant. So this is not only the remnants of a concentration camp, but it's also a museum. As you can see, they've done a great job, a fantastic job of preserving a lot of these things, and there's great commentary as well. So between the two camps, I think that this one is much more interesting. This is Auschwitz. BIRKENAU is also interesting, but not as nearly as interesting as Auschwitz. and you have a lot of the artifacts, a lot of the information. It's very clear, very interesting. If you get the choice to come to one, definitely come to Auschwitz. I think you have to go to both. And I did pay 120 zloty, and I have just a walking tour, so I'm walking by myself. You can go on a guided tour, but I wanted to just walk around and experience it myself. There was the do not cross sign there, the skull and bones, and the guard tower. So you can go in quite a few of the buildings, which is quite remarkable. Quite impressed by that. I don't know if this was some kind of guard tower. It looks like it was. Maybe we could shoot out of there even. So Auschwitz is tremendously preserved. It will stand as a reminder to many generations of what can happen if someone becomes absolutely powerful and has a crazy agenda as well. Finally, some good news. It says on April 16, 1947, SS Obersturmbannführer Rudolf Höss. I think maybe it's Hess, but it says Höss, the founder and first commandant of the camp, was hanged at this location in accordance with the verdict of the Supreme National Tribunal of Poland. I would say he got off very easily for all the horrendous crimes he committed. So this used to be a gas chamber and crematorium. This was it, and I guess you can go inside. I saw someone going in. So this is what a gas chamber looked like. And crematorium. Well, I think that's an appropriate way to end the video. My condolences to all the families, to all the people that suffered. May we never forget the Holocaust. It is something that has affected us all, and it could happen again if you don't prevent it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.